All right, this is worksheet 21. Finance is the new module. We'll talk about simple interest. This worksheet is the first worksheet of the financial literacy module. Financial literacy is useful and empowering. So many Americans are being taken advantage of because they lack the basic understanding of finance. I don't know, maybe you guys remember like in 2008, 2009, we had a huge financial crisis because of the home loans and stuff. A lot of Americans didn't understand how the loan worked. So in this module, we learn how to make more informed financial decisions when it comes to borrowing money and saving money. So I'm sure you guys even have a credit card already. Maybe you have a car loan, maybe you're making like home payments and all that stuff. And maybe you guys have a student loan as well. So here we talk about like the mathematics behind the loan, borrowing money and saving money also. So you can make more informed decisions, which I think is very important for us. All right, let's look at an example. Let's say if your close friend or not so close friend wants to borrow $200. Okay, that's a lot of money. Would you lend them money? Interesting. Maybe you can be nice and lend them money, but what if you need the money next week? Something happens. What if you think they don't pay back? What are you going to do? To address these kind of issues, so this is basically borrowing and lending money. There's all these different like variables that can happen. So to address these issues, we'll first look at the concept of interest. Okay, so interest. In general, people don't want to lend money to others for free, obviously, right? So what is this thing called interest? As a borrower, interest is the fee you pay to borrow money. Again, nobody's going to lend you money for free, so you kind of have to pay a little bit of a fee to borrow money, so that is called interest. If you are lending or investing money, then interest is a fee that you charge for someone to borrow from you, right? So either you're letting your friend borrow money, or what you can do is you can invest, in sense you can go to the bank and put your money in savings account. Basically, you're giving your money to the bank, and they keep it, they use whatever they use it and do whatever they have to do, except you're going to charge them to use their money. Usually interest is calculated as a percent. We'll talk about it in a lot more detail, but so the question is like, how much fee are they charging you, or how much fee are you charging them? So usually how they calculate it is calculate the percent of the amount you borrow or lend. So the conceptual way to calculate the interest. Okay, when borrowing money, you'll need to eventually pay back more than what you borrowed due to the interest. So to calculate how much interest you pay, you can subtract the amount you borrow from the amount you pay back. So basically, if you borrow 200, most likely you have to pay back more than 200. So 200 plus something, which is the interest. So maybe 230. That means you just pay $30 for interest, right? When lending money, you get paid more than what you lend due to the interest. Again, that's what you want, right? So calculate how much interest you make, you can subtract the amount you lend from the amount you receive. So basically, we look at the difference between, so if I'm going to make it a little side note, look at the difference between what's borrowed versus what's paid back. Paid back, right? Usually these two amounts are going to be different. Usually what's paid back is more than what's borrowed because of interest. So if you subtract one from the other one, then you'll find out the amount of the interest. All right, answer each question. Suppose that you borrow $200 and pay back $230 for it, right? So you ended up paying back more because of interest. How much interest is charged? Okay, that's pretty straightforward. 230. I'm just looking again. What's borrowed is 200. What's paid back is 230. Look at the difference. 30. So you ended up paying back $30 more than what you borrowed. So that's my interest. That's your interest, right? I'm gonna have you do part B. Once you're done with part B, let's look at part C. There's extra twist in part C. It says, suppose that you borrow $1,000 from your, wow, that's a lot of money. Maybe you're borrowing a computer or whatever. They say to pay back $90 each month for a year. Okay. How much interest are you paying back? So, okay, what's borrowed is 1,000. So I have to calculate how much is paid. What's paid? Paid back is, well, it says you're paying back 90 each month for a year. So I feel like, okay, isn't it just 90 times 12 because they're 12 month in a year. So that will be $1,000 and $1,080, right? So I borrowed 1,000. I ended up paying back 1,080 because it was 90 per month for a year. So 90 times 12. So my answer is 1,080 minus 1,000. So $80 was the interest. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have you pause and then look at finish part D. And once you're done with part D, we'll meet back at simple interest. Okay, so when you're done with part D, let's look at the simple interest part here. So there are a few other ways to calculate the interest. One is simple interest, the other one is compound interest. We'll talk about simple interest in this worksheet, and the next worksheet is going to be compound interest. So let's talk about the simple interest first. Factors involving simple interest. We talked about how there's like a percentage and that we care about how much you borrow. So those are the different factors to calculate the interest. So calculating the simple interest involves, so a lot of times interest is denoted by letter I, 3 factors: principal, P, interest rate, R, and then time, T. So these are 3 different factors that determine how much you're going to be charged, right? So the principal P is the initial or the original amount you start with. So that's how much you're borrowing, basically. As a borrower is how much you borrow. As a lender or investor, it's how much you lend or invest. That's like the original amount. This amount is fixed throughout the whole loan period or investment period. Let's see the next line. The interest rate is rate, usually in percent. So when you say interest rate, it's going to be like in percent. That will be multiplied to the principal to calculate the interest. Interest rate is given as an annual rate. Annual rate means like per each year, right? Annual just means 1 year. The interest rate you see on the credit card statement or bank and all this stuff is an annual. They're all annual interest rate. They'll say a 20% interest rate. What does that mean? It's the 20% annual interest rate. Means per year is 20%. For calculation, when we work, remember when we work percent needs to be converted into decimal. So we'll do some exercise later. The next factor is time. Time T is period of loan or investment. So time is just time. How long are you getting the loan? Are you getting the loan for 2 months or 2 years? Or are you investing for 5 months or 6 months or 5 years? Time needs to convert to year. So you can notice that interest rate is given in terms of annual rate, which is per year. So time also has to be in terms of year. So time needs to be converted to year for calculation. For example, 1 month need to be converted into 1 out of 12 years. Because 1 month is not a full year, it's a fraction of a year. How much fraction? 1 out of 12. 1 week needs to convert into 1 over 52 years. And 1 day needs to convert to 1 over 365 years. Again, 1 week is not full year, so it's a fraction of a year. Same for a day. The reason is because 1 year is 12 months, which is 52 weeks, which is 365 days. This is what we're going to use in this class, okay? So there's like a leap year, so they're slightly different, but this is for our purpose, we're going to do 12 months, 52 weeks, and 365 days. All right, let's look at some questions here. So in finance, time is usually measured in years, which means we need to convert all our time units into year for most of finance calculation. So convert each time period into year. Okay, so 6 months. Well, it's half year, so I already know it's half. So it's equal to 0.5, or you can say it's 1/2. Or why is it half? Because it's 6 over 12. So did over 12 because we were talking about month, right? So 6 months is same thing as a 6 over 12 years. I'll have you do part B and C, but if I were to do part D, it says 15 weeks, right? So, well, here, again, it's not a full year because a year has 52 weeks. So here I'm going to convert 15 over 52 years. So again, it's a fraction of a year. Why did you have to put 52 on the bottom? Because there are 52 weeks in 1 year, right? Okay. So have you pause, work on the part B, part C, and part E of this question. And once we're done, let's meet at number 3. Okay, if you're done with part 2, number 2, let's look at number 3. Here we'll do a little bit more exercise with converting decimal into fraction and fraction. Sorry, decimal into percent and percent into decimal. So this is for interest rate, because interest rate is given, it's going to be coming in percent. So for calculation, we have to convert interest rate into decimal. So the easiest one is, let's look at the first one, 100%. Yes, it's just 1. It's kind of easy to remember. Again, to convert percent into decimal, we move the decimal point, my point, to the left, right? So 100%, I don't see decimal point. That means it's at the end of the whole number, which is like here. So how do I convert percent into decimal? I just move my decimal 2 to the left. So it becomes 1.00, which is same as 1. Okay. How about 0.3%? Again, I can move my decimal 2 to the left. So that'd be 0.003. Right? So there's a lot of zeros. How about 0.12? Well, this one doesn't have a percent sign, so this is not a percent. So here, if I were to convert this into percent, we'll just basically do the opposite. So here I'll just move 2 to the right to make it into percent. So that'd be 12%. So here what I'm trying to say is 12% is same as 0.12 without the percent. So here I'm going to have you guys finish the rest of number 3. And once you're done with 3, then we'll meet back at the simple interest rate formula, simple interest formula. All right, so if you're done with number 3, let's meet back at number 4 here. So once we have principal, interest rate, and time period, so these are 3 factors we talked about, then we can go ahead and calculate the simple interest. And the ending balance, we'll talk about that too. So calculate simple interest, basically interest, I was interest rate, P, principal, times R, interest rate, times T. Maybe I should write that down here. So this is interest, this is principal, interest rate, and there's time. Again, there's a difference between interest versus interest rate. Interest is like a dollar amount. Interest rate is a percent. So maybe I should make a little side note here. Interest is the dollar amount. Interest rate is percent. So we're calculating actual dollar amount versus interest rate is a percent. All right, so I basically take how much you're borrowing times interest rate. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Times time. Are you borrowing it for 2 years? Then it'll be 2. Are you borrowing for 6 months? Then it'll be 0.5. So once you multiply all that, they'll get you how much interest you have to pay. To calculate the ending balance or the future value, we add the interest to the principal. So this is the formula. Like this just becomes distributed property, but this is what we use. Okay. All right, so let's look at number 4. Calculate the interest on 3-year loan. So that's gonna be my time. $3,000. So this is my principal. This is how much I borrow, I guess. If the simple interest rate is 4.99%. So when I see this, I want to kind of label things. So I noticed that, okay, this is T is equal to 3. It's already given in terms of years, so I don't have to convert. 3,000, okay, that's my principal. And then rate, it says 4.99. For calculation purpose, I need to use that as a decimal, so I move 2 to the left, 0.0499. Okay. So calculate the interest. So if I do that, so if I borrow $3,000 for 3 years at 4.99%, how much do I have to pay for interest? The formula says I is equal to P times R times T. So 3,000 times 0.0499 times 3. So that will be 449.1. So that means you're going to have to pay extra $449.10 for interest. So as you can see, sometimes it's a lot of interest. So it depends on like 3 years, your interest kind of pile up a little bit, right? And interest rate is here, and then also it depends on how much you borrow as well. All right, I'm going to have you try number 5. And let's look at number 6 after you're done with number 5. And let's look at number 6. It says on a 2-year $4,000 loan, 500 interest was charged. Okay, why are they telling me the answer already? What does it say next? What was the simple annual interest rate? Okay, they're asking for interest rate. They already gave me the time, they gave me the principal balance amount, and they also gave me the interest. So I feel like this is one of those things where you have to solve the equation. So let's see. So I'm using the same formula, P is equal to R times T, P times R times T. So if I rewrite it, this is my interest, 500, 4,000 is principal, 2 is time, right? So 500 is equal to P, which is 4,000, times R, I don't know, that's what I need to find. And then time was 2 years. All right, let's do as much calculation as possible. So 500 is 4,000 times R times 2. 4,000 times 2 will be 8,000 times R. Okay, here we have an equation. I want to solve for R. This is what they're asking for. R is multiplied by 8,000. So here I'm just going to divide both sides by 8,000. Divide by 8,000. Because 8,000 divided by 8,000, they cancel out. So 500 divided by 8,000. So on the left-hand side of the equation, when I do 500 divided by 8,000, I'll get 0.0625 is equal to R. So interest rate is 0.0625. Again, usually interest rate, like when I answer it, I want to answer it like as a percent. So that'll be, again, how do I convert my percent into decimal? I move 2 to the right to make it into percent. So 6.25%. That means the interest rate charge, it was 6.25%, whereas the actual money you paid was $500. All right, I'm gonna have you try number 7. Just pretty similar question there. All right, once you're done with number 7, let's look at number 8. This one I got it from the website. I went to Payday Loan and pretend that I was gonna borrow $200. So the date I started was 2 weeks prior to this date. So here, this is not so clear. So the time is 2 weeks. I selected it this day, so they're saying, oh, pay back by May 27th, which is 2 weeks from the loan start date. So I was going to buy $200. So they give you a little scenario case here, right? If I want to buy $200, I have to pay back in 2 weeks. They're going to charge me $35.20. So I have to pay back $235.20. And they're saying APR here, you see the very, very tiny small print. That's basically interest rate, $458.86% interest rate. That's crazy high. So the question is asking to verify this information here, okay? So I'm gonna have you finish number 8 and then rest of the worksheet. I think that's it.